And welcome back to the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. Juan Soto has agreed to a 15-year, $765 million contract, the greatest contract in professional sports history. Hats off to the New York Mets, owner Steve Cohen, be able to get the deal done. And of course, Juan Soto, absolutely deserving because of how young he was able to hit free agency. And we're going to see contracts like this, maybe not quite to the level of Juan Soto, but contracts that are a lot higher than what we were expecting coming into free agency. Great job by Juan Soto and Scott Boras of being able to get the deal done. But that's not where the story is going to end. The Mets are still going to add to that roster. Yankees are going to have to pivot to try to improve after losing Juan Soto to the crosstown rival New York Mets. It's going to be a story that dominates New York baseball for the next decade. We'll see how that contract ultimately ages, how many championships they win, how many do the Yankees ultimately get. It's going to be a huge story out there in New York for at least the next decade. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you're new here. We're going to break down everything happening at the winter meetings, and let's get into it. We'll start with the Juan Soto signing itself. 15 years, $765 million, probably slots in there as the number 2 hitter in that lineup. Lindor probably is your leadoff hitter for now. The New York Mets are going to pivot here, I believe, to Pete Alonso. They're also looking to add another starting pitcher. I have my reservations as to whether or not they go the big money route for Corbin Burnes. David Stearns, their general manager, has never gone past 2 or 3 years for a starting pitcher before. I'd be shocked if he does so for a guy like Burnes or Fried, but for that level of free agent, maybe he's more willing to do it. You see what the pocketbooks of Steve Cohen have really allowed him to do, allowing him to bring in the biggest contract in the sports history, in professional sports history, really, with Juan Soto. Now, maybe they go the Corbin Burnes route. That seems to be the top prize on the free agent market. Maybe it's Max Fried. They've been connected over the last couple of days to Walker Buehler, to Nathan Eovaldi, among others. We'll see which option they go with, but if I had to guess, I believe that they're probably going to try to get Burnes, and if they don't get him, I think they get one of the 2-year, 3-year option guys that they're more comfortable with, or at least David Stearns appears to be more comfortable with a long-term deal. Now, what else is there left to do? They're still going to be adding to that bullpen. They're still going to add, I believe, Pete Alonso. I would consider them the heavy favorite to retain Pete Alonso right now. Let us know in the comment section where you think he goes. What do you think of what do you guys think of the contract itself? And if you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to send us a super chat if you want to support the channel. It really does help us out. But thank you guys for joining us this morning. John, Paul, Nick, thank you guys for joining us. Are the Yankees going to sign anyone today? I do believe the Yankees are going to be active today. I don't think they've been sitting on their hands the last month just talking to Juan Soto. I'm sure they had also had parallel conversations with Alex Bregman. I'm sure they've had other conversations as far as trades, including Cody Bellinger. There's a couple different trade ideas that I actually was thinking about last night after I logged off, and I was like, wait, Yankees certainly could go out there and add Pete Alonso. Don't think it's likely, but they could. They could go out there and add a Christian Walker. I believe that one is more likely than a Pete Alonso, but there could be some trade targets out there not named Cody Bellinger or Nolan Arenado that they would bring in to help them at the corner infield spots. Now, they're still going to have to add a corner outfielder. I believe they'll need a center fielder as well. This is a team that's far from complete. This is a team that was very empty in that lineup outside of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Giancarlo Stanton had a good run at the end of the year and in the postseason last year. That was not the norm for him. He had basically been a nothing for them for the majority of the season. Injuries, etc. Jazz Chisholm was at least a league average player for them, whereas the rest of that lineup really did struggle. DJ LeMahieu was just a sunk cost at this point at $17 million per season. Trent Grisham, Can you count on Jason Dominguez because he's so young, because of the injury last year as well? Or would you rather have somebody, a proven veteran in there that can handle the stick at the major league level? Those are all big question marks. And then, of course, you go to the pitching or the starting rotation. Now that you're not spending the money on Juan Soto, maybe you decide to invest in that rotation and make it the linchpin of your organization. You have Garrett Cole at the top. You have Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez, all those kind of pieces. But maybe you add a Corbin Burnes or somebody of that ilk to kind of solidify that rotation. That way it's a great 1 through 5. They have Marcus Stroman there as well. They need to revamp that bullpen as well. Clay Holmes leaves also for the crosstown rival New York Mets. 3 years, $38 million, I believe, was the contract. They're going to use him as a starter. There are a few good closer options out there. I would be surprised if they ended at least one of those guys. Trade route, there's at least 4 or 5 options that you could go there as well. Yankees, I expect, will be very active in those discussions as well. In news that just happened over the last, say, 20, 30 minutes, Roque Sasaki, the international free agent, 22, 23 years old, coming over from Japan, has been posted. It is official. He will need to sign in the next 45 days. Do not expect him to sign before the new year, however. I would expect it after January 1 because that's when teams reset their financial tables when it comes to international bonus pool money. Dodgers are considered the heavy favorite there. Padres, Rangers, Cubs, and Mets are considered the fallback options, but one has to consider the Dodgers to be the heavy favorites there. Paul, good morning. Absolutely. Giants might actually do some more moves today. I do believe they're active in several discussions, at least at the moment. Starting pitching seems to be their focus at the moment. Nick, this is exactly what we wanted to hear from this morning. What's the Michael hot start to the meetings? Absolutely. If I were to lay out a roadmap for you guys, what I was hoping for, covering the sport, what would be the most interesting for viewers, for interest, for fan bases, would be for Juan Soto to sign early on in the winter meetings, even Sunday or even the day before that, so that the market can kind of have this 12-hour window where they can adjust to the new norm. And that's what they've had now. Juan Soto signed that big deal to get the Blake Trinan deal separate from that a few minutes thereafter, and then the market goes ghost town for transactions. Now we're starting to see rumors pick up quite a bit of the losers in the Juan Soto race being very interested in Alex Bregman, in starting pitchers, Burns and Fried, and also for top relievers. Relievers seem to be the next piece where they may go, as well as other corner outfielders on the market. Nick, I think the Twins could get a nice chunk for Correa if they were to make him available. What do you think? Who do you think he would fit well with? I think that some of the MLB Network guys, the Joel Shermans of the world, are pivoting to what's next for the Yankees, and they naturally think, well, what's the next Giancarlo Stanton move that they can make? Remember when the Yankees lost out on a couple of their own free agents as far as trying to re-sign them or top targets in free agency, they went the trade route and got Giancarlo Stanton. Now, if you interrogated Brian Cashman and the Yankees staff and put them on a polygraph, I'm sure they would tell you, oh yeah, I believe this is still the best move for our organization. Polygraph would tell you the truth. They really didn't like that signing now. It's really limited them as far as being a one-dimensional slug-first team. Athleticism has really gone out the window. I think this kind of gives them an opportunity to spend that money a little bit more wisely. Joel Sherman made a great point, though, when he was on MLB Network this morning on Hot Stove, and said that during the winter when Robinson Cano ultimately went to the Seattle Mariners, didn't work out great for the Mariners, obviously, but the Yankees pivoted to a couple of guys that probably they shouldn't have. Jacoby Ellsbury, Brian McCann. That obviously didn't exactly work out great. Those moves were praised at the time of being a great, more athletic move in the outfield for Jacoby Ellsbury. Injuries, of course, wound him down. Brian McCann, anyway, was an older catcher at the time, and we knew he was getting towards the end, but some team was going to pay him for that. And the Yankees were the team that pivoted from Robinson Cano to that contract. Ultimately didn't work out for them, obviously. I would be curious to see what happens next with the Yankees. If they go the route of the free agent, going after the mega guys. In the case of your question there, Carlos Correa has all kinds of red flags when it comes to the medicals. Maybe they get the Twins to eat some of that and then give up extra prospects in return. We saw the Yankees go the quantity over quality route with the Texas Rangers and the Joey Gallo trade years ago. Yankees would absolutely hate to have that happen again. 3 of the 4 guys have already made it to the major leagues with the Texas Rangers. The 4th one is in AAA right now and could be on the big league roster by the end of the season. That trade did not work out well. Whereas the Twins, I'm sure they would like to get something for Correa if they were able to. But I think he's a good fit there in Minnesota. I don't necessarily think they're going to give him away. And if you're the Yankees and he's the piece that you want to kind of solidify your roster, to ease your fan base a little bit, to say, hey, it's not all bad here. Juan Soto leaving doesn't mean we're going to go back into the tank. Carlos Correa would be a good option for you, sure. But I would be very leery of those red flags when it comes to his medicals. I wonder if the long-term medicals are what's been worrying teams over the last few years as to whether or not his knee's going to hold up. But we'll see. Yankees are going to have to do something. They got all this money to spend, and I believe they will spend it. It's just a matter of how wisely do they do so. Paul, you think the Yankees might try for Santander too? I would agree there. I think they're going to look for Teoscar Hernandez or Santander. I think the signing of Michael Conforto as a left-handed hitting corner outfielder with the Dodgers decreases the Dodgers' interest in going max dollars for Teoscar Hernandez, even though he was fantastic in that clubhouse with Shohei Ohtani specifically. Say the Dodgers are at $20-ish million. I think the Yankees would be more than willing to go to $28 million per season for Teoscar at this point over, say, a 3-year deal. That would put him at what, $84 million for 3 years? I think that's very likely for a guy like Teoscar Hernandez. Remember, he had 1 year, $23 million with the Dodgers last year, and I would say he overperformed that contract. He's going to do well in free agency. Do I think he'll ultimately live up to that contract? That remains to be seen, but that seems to be where the market is heading for a guy like Teoscar Hernandez. When will the move start happening again? Well, like I said last night, I would expect there to be like a 12-hour moratorium on moves while teams kind of rejudge the market. All these free agents try to recalibrate now that Soto is gone. They try to get the interest from the teams that missed out on Soto and say, hey, now that you didn't get him, what do you think about coming and acquiring my services? Alex Bregman, I think, got a $40 million pay bump because he goes to the Mets. If he had gone to the New York Yankees, I think the Yankees would have been one of his best fit, or would have been Bregman's best teams for him because Soto doesn't go there. Now there's extra money for Bregman on the table. Same thing with the Blue Jays and Red Sox. I think all three of those teams are immediately going to pivot to Alex Bregman and those corner outfield bats that we just mentioned. So that's kind of the moves that I see starting to happen over the next 24 to 48 hours. Bregman, I think, probably moves here in the next week, maybe even at the winter meetings. There has been some headlines on the trade front as well with Garrett Crochet. Brewers are said to have been kicking the tires. Red Sox, Reds, pretty much any team that needs some starting pitching has at least kicked the tires on Garrett Crochet. Blue Jays and Orioles in there as well. Padres have been mentioned as a team with interest. But I think Crochet is probably going to go to one of the big market teams, one of the World Series contenders. I think they're going to pay a little bit more of a premium than a team like the Brewers, for instance, who I think would be a nice fit, sure, because they need some starting pitching, but I don't see them giving up the prospect capital, matching up salary-wise for Crochet long-term, and so I don't think there's really a long-term fit there for Crochet. Paul, I'm thinking they're going hard on Burns. I think they get him and will lay the groundwork on a Sasaki pitch. Great pitcher's park, 3 or 4 in a rotation, will ease him in. I believe that the Giants are going after Burns. I think that's their number one target on the pitching side. Now that Juan Soto has been settled, I think those teams that missed on him are going to be hard after Corbin Burns. That being the Blue Jays. I think the Yankees are going to be in there to some degree. Red Sox to a little bit lesser degree because I think their top target is still Max Fried on the pitching side. Vlad Jr. is going after an $800 million contract next offseason. I would say you're correct, but we're talking about a first baseman. Look at Pete Alonso's free agency this year as to what could happen with Vlad Guerrero Jr. Sure, the Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a better player, better positionally than Pete Alonso as well. Guerrero can play a little bit of third base, but you're not going to get $800 million for Vladdy. You're looking at Alonso right now, probably in that 5 for 25 range. And I would say Guerrero probably gets to the Freddie Freeman level contract, maybe a little bit better than that because of the defensive versatility there. So Freeman got, 6 at 150? That's $30 million a year. I think Alonso's beneath that because of the limited defensive abilities at first base and the one-trick pony aspect to his game. Whereas Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a little bit more of a contact hitter, still brings the power and the defensive versatility. So you're still going to have to move him to DH at some point, I believe. But looking at his free agency next year, I think we're probably looking at maybe a $200 million deal. We're not talking about $800 million for Vlad Guerrero Jr. John, is the Yankees number one for Sasaki? I don't think so. I don't even think the Yankees are necessarily on the board when it comes to Sasaki. I'm sure the Cashman and every other GM in the sport would love to get their hands on a player like this, but I just don't think they have the infrastructure necessary to what they had in the past for international free agents. I'm sure there's still a beacon out there for those types of players who want to play for a brand like the Yankees, absolutely. And if they want to play for the Yankees, I'm sure the Yankees will sign him. But I think the Dodgers are far and away the favorite for Sasaki. Rangers have developed a relationship in the Japanese market for the better part of 8-9 years at this point. When Chris Young specifically got announced as when John Daniels was fired and they elevated Chris Young to his position, he was actually in Japan when that news broke. He was working on things like this to possibly bring over Roki Sasaki. So he's very familiar with the Japanese market, what it takes to lure those free agents. Padres have had some success in that area as well. But I would say the Yankees are far and away, way down the line here when it comes to that type of free agent. Now, could they go out there and get some other guys? Like I said, they're still an international brand. Players are going to want to go there. But it seems like Sasaki specifically is looking towards the West Coast, possibly the Cubs or Rangers. Willard, welcome back. Appreciate you joining us once again. Telling you the Yankees never go that high for any player, including Judge, but they did with Soto. Maybe in the back of the Yankees' mind, they privately were concerned how the Judge keeps choking in playoffs. I'm not sure I would say Judge chokes in the playoffs. I think that's a little harsh. But they did certainly go above and beyond what I thought they would go for. That to me, if I'm a Yankees fan, I look at that and say, hey, they went out there and they did what they could. But you're looking at Steve Cohen, and I like the arguments that Joel Sherman and company are making. This is not the Wilpon Mets. This is not, that type of ownership group out there in LA either. This was talking about the Guggenheim partnership group anyway for the Dodgers, who have endless amounts of resources. Cohen has endless amounts of resources with the Mets, and it's not just a one-team super team in the league anymore. They have competition more than any time in their history before. So, to see them go to that number was impressive. I thought they would have been capped at around 600, 625. They broke all the way into 700. They got all the way to 760. That's impressive for them. And they should be commended for that for the New York fans. Now, understandably, they lost their guy. Ultimately, they didn't get the deal done. They can say all they want in the media and say, oh yeah, we went as far as we could, but ultimately he decided to go elsewhere. I get all of that. But they didn't get the job done. They're going to have to show their fan base that now that they don't spend the money on Soto, that they're going to invest that money well on that team. Maybe get them a little bit better defensively. Be a little bit more of a 2-8 type of baseball club where they can defend and hit for power. They have been more of a slug-first team, overpower you with pitching, fastball team than anything else on that roster. They don't really have a whole lot of athleticism, and maybe this is the time they can pivot to something like that. Do you think the Yankees are going to get Bellinger? I think they're very much in there. I'd probably give them a 33% chance, which is equal to pretty much any other team I think that's in the running. I think the Mariners are right there as well. Astros have kicked the tires. The Diamondbacks to some extent. The Rangers have kicked the tires. Dodgers have as well. Giants. But I think the Yankees probably have a little bit more impetus than those other teams to be able to get a deal done. I think the Mariners, though, are pretty much 1 and 1A for where I think Bellinger will go. I think the other teams probably comprise the remaining 33%, but I think those are two of the favorites for him. And I think that trade could happen here at the winter meetings. Now, I think it could also take an extra week because that's a lot of money to sort out on that deal. But if the Yankees are trying to pivot quickly, maybe they can take advantage, or maybe the Cubs can take advantage of that situation. Say, hey, we'll give you an answer for Soto right now by letting you get Bellinger, but we're not going to eat as much of the deal as we normally would. If the Yankees are smart, they'll let the contract discussions take place in the way that they should and not just settle for whatever they can get Cody Bellinger for. So we'll see what they do, but Bellinger, I think, is a very realistic target for the Yankees. Who do you think will be the next mega contract, $500 million plus? Ooh, great question. Great question. I don't think there's really a free agent on the horizon that I see at that level right now. I think Bregman's probably going to get close to 250, maybe 260. Tucker could be that guy next year. Maybe, depending on how old he is when he hits free agency. I can't remember how old he is off the top of my head. But I don't think there's a world right now where somebody's going to equal the Juan Soto deal next year. I think there's probably in the next 5 years we'll have one guy get up to that level. But outside of that, I think this is a one special type of player situation. We in case you guys are wondering, we've gone through a really incredible piece of time here with Major League Baseball. We're talking about incredible free agents. Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge. This is an incredible run on free agents at the top of the market, and those guys aren't hitting free agency again for a very long time. Juan Soto has an opt-out after 5 years. I'm pretty sure if he's performing well, that opt-out will be expunged, and the Mets will bump his AAV up from $51 to $55 million. But to answer your question, who do I think is the next mega million contract, like $500 million? I don't think that guy is clear right now. By the way, Astros have an outside chance to sign Bregman and possibly get Pete Alonso or Walker or Rizzo. To me, that's a good signing either way. I would say the Astros are completely out on Bregman. I don't think they have the money to be able to do it. I don't think Jim Crane wants to go that route. I think the contract of 6 for 156 was literally just a token offer for the media to say, hey, we offered the guy $31 million a year. You can't come after us for not wanting to spend money. No, I can't. I can say you're a cheap organization that wants to save on your contracts. Now, am I saying that they're dumb for doing so? No. I am saying that the Astros are choosing to be a little bit more frugal. They're trying to stick to a hard line of not going past 5 years. That's why I think the 6-year contract of being $31 million is absolutely a token contract. Bregman is going to break $200 million. Adames got 7 for 182. Bregman's a better player and is going to get more money and has more teams interested in him. And the fallback option of Adames is no longer on the board. The clear #1 top position player free agent is Alex Bregman. He's going to do very well. There's no way the Astros are going to pony up the money to do it. Look at the number of free agents that they've allowed to leave for less money than what Bregman is going to sign for. Alonso, I don't think they have a chance to get him. I think he goes back to the Mets at this point. As far as Walker, I think they should be very much in there. He is their top target as far as I'm concerned. They were interested in him at the trade deadline. They were interested in him last year. He would be a great fit for them at first base. Jonathan Vlad Guerrero Jr. next year, no. I don't think that has a prayer. Look at the way first basemen are viewed in today's market. It's not the Albert Pujols contracts anymore. We're talking Pete Alonso's going to get $25 million over 5-6 years this time around. Guerrero's a better player, all-around hitter, play a little bit defensively at third base, better defender at first as well. But he ain't breaking 500. He might break the 200 to 250, maybe 3 if you really push him. But look at Freddie Freeman's deal, 6 for 150. That I think is kind of the starting point for Guerrero, and then you build on there. I think you could get reasonably expect Guerrero to get over 200 million and not bat an eyelash at that one. 250, you start worrying about it. 300 might be a little rich, but if he's able to play third base for you as opposed to first, maybe you're willing to go that far for at least a year or two. Flex him back over to first base when his defensive abilities at third base finish out, and then again he's going to be a DH by the end of that deal. So Vlad Guerrero Jr., I think best case scenario for him breaks 300, not 500. John, do you think the Yankees are getting Bregman? I think they're going to be one of the top 2 finishers for Bregman as well. It would suck to finish as a bridesmaid twice in the same offseason to top flight free agents, your top 2 targets in free agency. But I think he would be a great get for them, solidify their infield needs, and allow them to go a little bit cheaper in the outfield spots. I love the playoff pedigree of Bregman. He has not reached his ceiling yet. I'm curious if he will wherever he goes. But do I think the Yankees are getting him? Remains to be seen. I still think the Blue Jays are going to be right there. Red Sox are going to be right there as well. Welcome in, Woke. Rangers need pitching and maybe a first baseman with trading low. I'm glad you brought that up. Give me just a second to get this pulled up for you guys. I told you guys after we logged off last night, I was just going over in my head just some trade possibilities that the Rangers and other teams could do. And one team that kind of stuck out to me was the Rangers and how they actually have a couple of pieces that they might be willing to move on for, that the Yankees would actually be a fit. So say the Yankees get Alex Bregman, they spend all this money on Bregman, but they still need to add a first baseman, they still need to add a center fielder out there. They're not exactly thrilled with the idea of having Trent Grisham as their everyday guy in center field. So let me get this pulled up. First team I'm going to select is the Yankees. Whoop, too far down. Second one I'm going to select here is the Texas Rangers. Now the Rangers have been trying to cobble together enough money for some of their top flight targets in free agency. Number 1 being Nathan Eovaldi. They have roughly $40-45 million to spend in free agency. But if they added, say, another $10 to $15 million to free agency, I think they would immediately sign Nathan Eovaldi. They may even be able to bring in Christian Walker to solve their first base need if they moved off of Nathaniel Lowe. So let's look at it. Rangers. Pull up their major league roster here. Nathaniel Lowe, 26 and change, got 2 years left on his deal, 8.3 value. And then the other one was Leody Taveras. Rangers are probably going to move Leody to probably their fourth outfielder going into the season next year. His offense just never really came through in Texas. Now, New York, both of those guys are left-handed hitters. Short porch in right field. I think both of those guys are going to do much better offensively if they were to be in a Yankees uniform. That being said, Leody Taveras is still more of a defense-first center fielder. The athleticism he would bring would help turn the page a little bit for the New York Yankees. I'm not saying he's the Juan Soto answer. You're going to replace him 1-for-1. But I am saying this is an upgrade for them defensively in center field. And if he gets right offensively, he could be a game changer for them. At first base, if they sign an Alex Bregman, they want to go after some relief pitchers. By having a guy in Nathaniel Lowe at around $10 million is going to be a far better option financially for them than going after a Christian Walker. I still think their top target is Bregman. If they get him done, I think this is a very plausible trade situation. So let's say the Rangers get this done. They move off of these two deals. That saves the Rangers roughly $16 million. They then turn around and spend that money on Christian Walker for their first base. They still spend the money on Nathan Eovaldi. And then they've got roughly $20 to $25 million to solve the rest of their issues with their organization. Bringing in another outfielder, since you no longer have Leody Taveras out there. A corner outfield guy to solve that spot for them. And then you look at the bullpen, possibly re-signing Corbin Burns, not re-signing him, but Kirby Yates is the name I'm looking for there. So there is some flexibility there if the Rangers were to do something like this. Say the Yankees offer, I don't know, just something decent back. I wouldn't even say Cortez. Leiter as a bullpen piece, that could make some sense. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that one. I'm going to say they send Leiter back and then a prospect, a lower level guy in the 2 range. Velorio, years and years away, makes some sense. Okay, let's look at the deal. Yankees get their first baseman. They get a center fielder. They give up a relief pitcher. They still need to add to their bullpen. And Velorio. Maybe the Rangers, instead of getting a major league guy back in Leiter, they go a couple of prospects, something along those lines. But this is kind of a general framework here for what the Yankees could do pivoting from Juan Soto. Now remember, my caveat to this one is if they spend the money on Alex Bregman, they're trying to save money a little bit on center field and first base. They need an upgrade over Rizzo. Nathaniel Lowe symbolizes that here. And Leody Taveras gives them a great defensive center fielder, more athleticism. Both are left-handed hitters. Both should produce better than what they had last year and should produce better with the New York Yankees in that short porch. Let's check in on a few of y'all's comments anyway. Gunner, 28 and 29 will be a free agent. We are a long way. Will be our next mega free agent. I think he has the potential. I think Bo Bichette, if he gets back on the right track, could be a $400 million contract. But I think the 500 is probably a year or 2 or 3 away. Paul Vladdy, I'm betting 9 to 10 years, 280 to 330. I think that's kind of the top of the market for Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think that's kind of the best case scenario for him. I think more likely we're looking at 250-ish, 280-ish. 330 is a little bit aspirational. But like I said, that's the top of the market. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Welcome in, Strong Woods. Hey, would Yankees go after Bellinger? Absolutely. We just covered that one a minute ago. But make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Feel free to rewatch later if you want as well. We're going to do 3 different lives today. One morning update, one afternoon around 1 o'clock, and then another one later on this evening updating you guys from the winter meetings, what's going on, all those kinds of things. But to answer your questions specifically, they are looking for the next dominoes after Soto goes to the Mets. They're going to have to spend money. They need first base, center field, corner outfield. They could use a corner infielder at third base if they want, some bullpen help, rotation. There's a lot of holes on this roster, a lot of avenues they could look to explore to improve. Losing Juan Soto, it's a big loss, don't get me wrong, but this wasn't exactly a world-beating team last year either. Soto and Judge were the engines of this team, and they had to go out at the trade deadline, get at least a league average player in Jazz Chisholm, because that lineup was not producing around Aaron Judge. They weren't protecting him. And Giancarlo Stanton had a great run towards the end of the season into October, but they need to improve their overall talent. They need to improve their athleticism. I think this is a great opportunity for them to do so. It sucks if you're a Yankees fan. You're losing probably your second best player, probably the perfect complement to your best player in Aaron Judge, and you're going to have to watch him play in your city for the next 15 years. That sucks if you're a Yankees fan. And so I get why Yankees fans are out there burning jerseys and whatnot. You know, you spend money on it. Major League Baseball or some sports leagues anyway have buyback options if your player's traded right after you buy it, or if your player goes somewhere else right after you buy it. They have opportunities for that, but I get the frustration out there for those fan bases that miss on the player like Juan Soto. Maybe you're a Nationals fan and hoping he returns to the Nationals. Never going to happen, but I get the frustration of missing out on your top free agent target, but you move on. There are other free agents out there. The Yankees specifically, just on the free agent market alone, could have gone for Willy Adames before he signed with the Giants. They're going to be in there for Bregman. Next year, I'd imagine they'd be in there for Vlad Guerrero Jr. And if he doesn't sign an extension with the Blue Jays, I think they have every right to consider themselves the favorite now for Vlad Guerrero Jr. next year. But you got to do well this year in free agency to make sure that your team next year isn't hamstrung by the deals that you make as a knee-jerk reaction to losing Juan Soto. Just like I mentioned earlier, Joel Sherman anyway referenced the loss of Robinson Cano and how they pivoted to McCann and Ellsbury. We saw how that worked out. Giancarlo Stanton, I think everybody would argue, was not a great move for that organization either. But they made those moves, limited themselves financially. They limited themselves from an athletic standpoint as well. Then they get lucky with Aaron Judge breaking through as the way he did, becoming the second best player in Major League Baseball right now. And they just need to continue to improve. But let us know in the comment section who you guys think is the next $500 million. What do you guys think of the Soto signing? What do you think happens next for the Yankees? And where do you think Alex Bregman goes? And again, news that we just had before we just came on the air, Roque Sasaki has officially been posted. He will sign after the start of the new year. So, kind of keep your eyes peeled for that one. But rumors are going to start about him taking visits and those kinds of things. I very much doubt that he's already got a destination, hammered down. Contrary to popular reports out there that say he's going to the Dodgers, he already made up his mind. He's not interested in meeting with other teams. I don't buy that yet. I'm sure other teams have been looking at him for 8-9 years. Specifically, the Texas Rangers, I know, started meeting with him before he even turned 18. So they've been in the conversations at least with Sasaki's camp for a very long time. Familiarizing themselves with the market outside of just Sasaki. There are a few other players coming over from the NPB that are going to make a difference, and he's just one of many that are going to come over. Sasaki, though, probably will be the best of the international free agent group this year. But thank you guys for joining us. Let's go ahead and just double check one more time, see if anything else is happening since we went live. Look at that beautiful banner there from the winter meetings. Beautiful, beautiful. Arrived in Dallas for baseball winter meetings. I'm hoping for a sample of the local. You're a Dallas reporter. Come on, my guy. Mets fans, but Archer has got excited about his 70-grade stick he acquired. Cute. Anthony Santander is getting strong interest from AL East clubs that fell short on Soto. Blue Jays, Red Sox, Yankees. Not a surprise there, and they got firsthand viewing of his career with the Baltimore Orioles. So they're all very familiar with Santander. I don't think his contract's going to be absolutely crazy. I think we're probably looking at 25 plus, kind of the best case scenario for Santander, maybe a 5-year deal. I think 6 years is a bit of a stretch for him, but I think he's going to do very well in free agency, probably $100 million or so. Look at me just throwing around $100 million like it's nothing, but that's the day and age we live in. Jonathan, is there a possibility the Mets sign Burns? History tells me no, because Stearns normally doesn't sign long-term contracts. What do you think about this? Exactly. I would agree on that one, Jonathan. I think Stearns, in what he would probably prefer is short-term deals, 2-3-year deals max for a starting pitcher. He doesn't really like the long-term deals. Now, given that, he also has never had an ownership group like he has right now, Steve Cohen. 15 years, 765 million. Is that ringing a bell? That's less than what 12 hours ago, 13 hours ago when that contract was agreed to. He's never had that kind of money to ever spend in free agency, ever. Biggest contract he had signed before this one, Lorenzo Cain, for $80 million. And oh, by the way, his entire time with the Brewers, he never had a payroll that matched what Juan Soto has had, or that had, he never had a payroll that was even close to what Juan Soto is going to make, obviously. But the total payroll that he ever had, added all up, is just a hair more than what they're going to be paying for Juan Soto over 15 years. One player versus an entire organization's payroll for an entire tenure of 7 years that he was there in Milwaukee. Just incredible numbers going to Juan Soto, and congratulations, he earned it. Hitting free agency at the time he did, getting the right teams involved, being so young when he hit free agency, we knew he was going to do very well in free agency. When he turned down the $450 million from the Nationals, everybody was like, that's a lot of money. Even D-Row said he would have accepted the money, but he had belief in himself, belief in the process, trusted his agent, and he scored himself an extra $300 million. That could ultimately stretch all the way to $805 if the escalators are reached. But as far as the Burns part of that, I think the Mets are very much in there for Burns. It remains to be seen if they're going to have the high bid. I think Cohen, if he does have the willingness to go that far, they will be the high bidder. The question is, would they rather go the Burns route, or would they rather go guys like Eovaldi or Buehler, or bring back one of their own in Sean Manaea? All of those are options out there on the market. Welcome in Vincent, Roque to Dodgers or San Francisco, Bregman to Houston, Burns to New York. Not a chance for Bregman going back to Houston. That ship has sailed. He is leaving Houston. 6 years, 156 was their max offer. They don't go past the 5 years. I think this was literally just a token offer to quiet down Astros fans who say, well, they never spend free agency. Yeah, because they never do. Fan base is correct on that one. 5 years, 6 years, that's about the max of what they're going to do. Bregman's going to break $200 million. He's going to break 7 years. I don't think the Astros even sniff competition for that. So, sorry, he's not going back to Houston. I think the Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox are all teams that are going to be in there for him. Phillies, to a certain extent, have some interest there. Mets could also go in that market as well. Roque, I do believe, is probably going to go to the Dodgers. I think the Giants are a little bit further behind than what other teams are. I think the Padres, Rangers are probably a little bit above where the Giants are right now. I think the Cubs and Giants are on a very similar footing, as well as kind of a 4th, 5th place option. But I think Sasaki is far and away the favorite to go to the Dodgers. Let's go ahead and check out any other headlines here. We mentioned the Brewers being interested in Crochet. Bowden says he is expected to sign with an MLB team between January 15th to the 23rd. Padres, Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, Rays, Cubs, Dodgers, Phillies among teams in the mix. Rangers, I know, are in the mix as well. Interesting note here from the Dodgers. We knew that the signing of Conforto would make the necessity of a Teoscar Hernandez signing a little bit less urgent for them. I still think they're going to look for a right-handed hitting outfielder, corner outfielder. Teoscar is a great fit with that organization. He was great. One of the few friends Shohei Ohtani actually had on that roster. But he's going to have Yamamoto this year. He's going to have possibility of bringing in Roque Sasaki. So they don't necessarily need to bring back Teoscar. Hernandez is going to do great in free agency. I expect a 3-year, $28 million deal minimum. And I expect the Red Sox, Yankees, Phillies, or not the Phillies, but the Blue Jays as well to have interest there. But he's going to do well in free agency. Dodgers don't necessarily need to overextend themselves for him now like they would have without bringing in Conforto. To me, I still think the Conforto deal is a little bit of a mess. I think there's 2 contracts that I've seen so far in free agency that are misses. Number 1 being Michael Conforto. It's less of an impact because it's the Dodgers. They can afford to miss at that level. But it's only 1 year anyway, so how big of a miss is it really? The other one is Matthew Boyd, coming off of 12 starts anyway for the Guardians when he was on the scrap heap literally for anybody to sign. Understandably, his numbers were very good last year, but those are the 2 contracts that I've seen that have red flags written all over them right now. Other free agent contracts like Kikuchi and Severino are at the top of what their market value possibly could have been, but those are rebuilding clubs. They got something for their rotation for the next couple of years. That way they have some stability at the top, so I understand those deals. I'm not going to give them, a negative comment because, the A's really don't spend money in free agency, but they solidified their rotation, got themselves an opening day starter. The Angels, I thought that was a little bit mystifying. They went and got Kikuchi. I thought they should have gone more of the one-year route. The what was the other pitcher they signed? Kyle Hendricks. I thought that was the route they should have gone. Let their young guys eat towards the end of the season. But now that you have Kikuchi there, you kind of ate up all his trade value. So even if the contract did work out and he worked to his best of his ability, there's really not much trade value for him to go somewhere else at the trade deadline somewhere. And so I thought that was a little bit of a miss as far as the total value of the contract, but they at least get some stability. In case you guys are just joining us, big news last night. Juan Soto, 15 years, $765 million to go to the crosstown rival New York Mets. Meanwhile, the rest of the industry is kind of adjusting to the new news, and hopefully we have an active day of free agency. I am expecting it, so we shall see. Dave Parker talking about being inducted into the Hall of Fame last night. Dick Allen as well. Those are the two guys that were inducted off of the Classic Committee ballot. There were 8 names on that ballot. You could only vote for 3 of a committee of like 15 or 16 guys. So for 2 guys to get through when you can only vote for 3 is absolutely impressive work by that committee. They did a great job sorting through those candidates and arriving at what appears to be a consensus to where they were able to get a couple of guys who are very deserving of going into the Hall of Fame finally across the finish line. I hope that future ballots do something very similar, but that's kind of where we're at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock now Central Time in the morning. We'll be back live around 1 o'clock. Be sure to check out our YouTube page, hit that like and subscribe. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook at the Upside Sports Network. But appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll see you guys later on this afternoon. Have a good one.